I'm Amy Goodman. As we continue to mark the one-year anniversary of the Hamas October 7th attack on Israel and the star of Israel, the beginning of Israel's relentless assault on Gaza, we turn now to the path forward, a new short film that features the stories of Israeli and Palestinian peace activists who've joined together calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the occupation. This is a trailer for the path forward.
All of us want to stop the killing of our children and your children.
We are crying for the world to act now before it will be too late.
From their deepest pain.
What happened to my parents on October 7th? Some nights I cried throughout the night.
If somebody kills your brother, you want to hurt whoever hurts your family.
They found their greatest purpose.
Every relationship that I will be able to build with Palestinians, it's very meaningful.
It didn't matter to me that his parents were Jewish. Those who were killed were my people too.
At this time of great pain, you choose to be together.
If not now, when?
I wanted to break the cycle of incitement, hatred, violence, revenge, rinse and repeat.
How can we move further away from this hashtag stand with Palestine or a hashtag stand with Israel?
If we are not able to grieve the loss of our humanity together, we will never be able to plan a future together.
Those who believe that bombs will bring safety, they are naive. They are naive.
We lost our compass of humanity, and we need to bring that back.
The idea that I should care more about a dead child who happens to be of someone who shares my nationality as opposed to someone who does not is insane to me.
The path forward includes the stories of Palestinian peace activist Aziz Abu Sarah and Israeli peace activist Maoz Inon, who we just interviewed on this show. His parents, Bilha and Yaakov Inon, were killed in the October 7th attack. In this clip, The Path Forward, Aziz begins by talking about reaching out to Maoz after news of Maoz's parents' death a year ago today.
It didn't matter to me that Maoz's parents were Jewish. That's not part of the calculation. When people talk about October 7th, it's Israelis versus Palestinians. It didn't feel to me Israelis versus Palestinians. Those who were hurt, those who were killed were my people too.
I just replied immediately, thank you for being there.
A few days later, he made a post on Twitter.
I am not crying for my parents. I am crying for those who will lose their lives in this war.
He doesn't want revenge, and he doesn't want what's happened to him to cause more people to suffer. And I said, it took me 8 years to come to that point. When my brother, Taysir, died, he was 19 years old, and I was 10 years old. He was arrested on suspicion of throwing rocks. He was beaten up in prison by an Israeli soldier, which caused internal injuries. He died as a result of those injuries. It's still painful. A few days after Maoz's parents were killed, it's just I can't imagine stepping out of your pain to think of somebody else's pain, to think of what other people are going through. It takes so much of a humanity of someone to do that. So I wrote him that, and he sent me a message right away saying, let's talk.
I knew that my life has changed dramatically. It's not just what happened to my parents, my childhood friends, Israelis. I knew that a war is just about to happen, and a war that we have never experienced before in our lifetime. So every contact, every bridge, every relationship that I knew that I would be able to build with Palestinians, it's very meaningful. Not just for me, Maoz, as a person, but for the region.
An excerpt from The Path Forward featuring Maoz Inan, who lost his parents a year ago today, and Aziz Abu Sarah, Palestinian peace activist, who's joining us now from Greenville, South Carolina. He's also author and founder of Amidst Tours and a resident of East Jerusalem. When Aziz Abu Sarah was 9 years old, as you just heard, his older brother Taysir died soon after his release from an Israeli prison of internal injuries suffered after he was tortured in prison. And here in New York, Julie Cohen is with us, the Oscar-nominated filmmaker who's made many films, including RBG, My Name is Pauli Murray, Gabby Givert's Won't Back Down. Julie is a Jewish American and co-directed The Path Forward with Mo Husseini, a Palestinian American writer. We thank you both for being with us. Aziz, your thoughts on this October 7th anniversary?
It's been a hard morning already, just listening to news, and I've talked to Maoz already this morning, been in touch with some friends, but it's been not just the anniversary of October 7th, it's this whole year has been like a nightmare that I keep wishing I can wake up and just forget all about it and assume that, believe that was just a dream, just a nightmare. And unfortunately, it hasn't. Tens of thousands of people have been killed. So much pain, so much suffering. So many people I know, both Palestinians and Israelis and Lebanese, are suffering. My family are all in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. It's every time I get a phone call, I'm terrified of receiving horrible news. It's been impossible to have a normal life in this last year. It is impossible to have a normal life. So it's just a reminder of how far we've gotten in a negative way, in a terrible way.
And Julie Cohen, can you talk about focusing on Aziz and Maoz, Palestinian-Israeli peace activists, in this year of so much suffering?
Yeah, I mean, it's a day of grief today. As Aziz says, there's this sort of ongoing nightmare to wake up to every day. For me personally, and for Maud, my directing partner in this, in a way, finding and sharing the voices of Aziz and Maoz and other pairs like them, because there are many, many more like this, is the greatest comfort to the nightmare, and possibly, the only hope in our minds of a solution, of a moving forward, of looking at the horrendous situation the world is in, people who've suffered the greatest pain, like Aziz and Maoz, who take that pain and think, wait a second, how can we go for, as Maoz said earlier, radical reconciliation, radical peace, a radical search for justice, like in some ways looking for love and compassion and sharing pain and sharing grief is better than the militaristic solutions, quote unquote, which have failed us again and again and again. And so we just wanted to bring their voices forward because they seem useful and constructive in a world where there is too little usefulness right now.
In your film, you have woven throughout this peace march of Palestinian and Israeli Jewish women that happened on October 4th, 3 days before last year's October 7th. One of the people leading this march was Vivian Silver, the well-known Canadian-Israeli peace activist who would die on her kibbutz. We have interviewed her son, demanding a ceasefire from the beginning, as Maoz and Aziz have.
Yes. It's a sadness almost that more of us weren't aware of this march when it originally happened on October 4th, how little American news coverage this got, that the fact that a couple thousand women, Palestinian and Israeli Jewish women, together, linking arms, singing, calling, crying out for peace. And I think what's so beautiful is how many of the activists, including those featured in our film, did not react to everything that was to come just a few days later by pulling apart, but it actually strengthened their resolve, to like, no, this shows that what we need is something new and different, and let's work together towards building improvement, building a better world.
Let me ask Aziz if you feel more or less hope. Right now, you have Israel in the most massive, deadly bombardment of Lebanon that we have seen in decades. You have the bombing of Iran. You have Iran's missiles on Israel. You have the bombing of Israel's bombing of Syria, Israel's bombing of Yemen. As we wrap up, what gives you hope?
Well, I want to just say something before I tell you what gives me hope. Is Vivian was a dear friend who I've known for many, many years and was a mentor for me. And that image of Israelis and Palestinians marching together has not changed. That's what gives me hope. I was in Jerusalem just 3 weeks ago, and we went marching in Al-Auja, in a Palestinian village in the West Bank, that the water was diverted away from the village to a settlement. And Israelis arrived from Tel Aviv, Israelis arrived from Jerusalem, Israelis arrived from all over, joining Palestinians, and we marched together. And I saw something powerful, is even though we were only few hundred, the fear of those who opposed us, the army and the police, even though we were extremely peaceful, compliant, we didn't want to confront anyone, we marched with messages that says we refuse to be enemy, water rights for everyone, these kind of very universal language. And they were terrified. And in some ways that gave me a little hope, because I can see how people who believe that war is the only way, what scares them the most is people like us. What scares them the most is people who are modeling a different future, that we're able to say, look, we don't hate each other. We can work together. And so it was no surprise that the police came and gave traffic tickets to everyone pretty much who arrived. There was no surprise that the military was trying to provoke us, because they were terrified that we are showing what the possibility is. So I do have hope, and my hope is not in leaders or politicians who claim to be leaders. My hope is about the people who are like us, my colleagues, Israelis and Palestinians, who are refusing to fall into, if I'm Palestinian, I must hate all Israelis or Jews, or if I'm Israeli, I must hate all Palestinians, and realizing that we are on the same side, those of us who believe in equality and justice and peace, and those who don't yet. Our mission is to convince those who don't yet to join us and realize that bombing somebody else, killing a civilian, killing a human being is never going to be the way to bring you safety and security, and that our route to freedom is a joint route.